So Beehive air therapy, you have also my email address. You'll see it many times. It's no problem. And you see here one funny drawing, people smelling the beehives. And most of the beekeepers and the people who visited an apiary has had this kind of sensation, this feeling, very, very good feeling about these aromas which are coming from the beehive. And here it's interesting, like when we smell a rose, a flower, a lavender, or some medicinal aromatic plant, we have certain specific volatile components, but from the beehive air, it's a whole concert, a lot of different volatile substances. And we'll speak today also, thanks to Tiago, and also tomorrow about these substances. Okay, so practically every single bee product has some aroma. Even bee venom, has aroma. You can smell it if you put some bee venom on a piece of paper, and you can smell it. And then bee bread has a smell. Pollen has a different smell according to the flower. Honey, royal jelly too, propolis, beeswax. So all bee products have a certain smell. And as you'll see, we will speak about this later. It was a study done in Germany. They found out that most of the volatiles are coming from propolis and from beeswax. But there are methods to get a lot of volatiles also from honey. For example, during centrifugation, honey centrifugation frees, liberates huge amounts of volatiles. And this is known by the beekeepers when they do centrifugation. Now, in apitherapy, we use all these bee products because of their composition. They explain the pharmacological effects, the mechanism of action, and so on. So melittin is the most important substance from bee venom. Then carbohydrates are the most important substances in honey, of course. In honeydew honey, you have carbohydrates and minerals. In propolis, you have polyphenols or flavonoids. Polyphenols is a larger class of substances. And essential oils and aromatic substances. This is very important for beehive air therapy. Then we have honey, royal jelly. Royal jelly contains also hormones, proteins, peptides, many different substances. But what is specific, it's a certain amount of hormones in royal jelly. Pollen and bee bread, very famous for their essential amino acids and for the enzymes. The enzymes are hugely important in apitherapy, especially a special enzyme called telomerase, which allows the regeneration of the telomeres, which are very important components of our chromosomes. Okay, so when we speak about the bee plants, we need to know from where they originate, from geological origin, from what part of the world they are coming, and also, of course, their botanical source. Okay, so here a short but important element here. The most important medicinal bee plants, so there are bee plants and medicinal plants. And here is in German written, it's the most important plants are those who are belonging to two categories, bee plants and medicinal plants. And here you see, like in Latin, the scientific names of such plants. And as I said, they belong to both these categories. Why is this important? Because a plant which is belonging to two categories, for example, here it's common hawthorn, Weißdorn in German. This tree is very good for the bees in the spring, but also very good medicinal plant. And the bees are collecting the nectar, the pollen, and then this shrub will be making some fruits. And we collect in phytotherapy the flowers, the leaves, but also the fruits, and all of them are having very good effects on the heart. So we can say that the hawthorn, it's a plant which is belonging to both these categories. And this is important because when you do your beehive air houses and you have some land around you, it is good to plant those plants which belong to both categories. So you just go to your nearest botanist. You ask to help you to identify the plants in your area. You ask also a pharmacist to identify the medicinal plants, and you go also to a beekeeper to help you to find the bee plants. And then these plants are best to plant in your apiary, in your area. Okay. Okay, some few words about the composition of the bee products. We have here classes of substances which we find in honey. We find many different categories of substances, and they explain the therapeutic effects of the honey. And here, among all these categories, you see here aromas. Aromas, so essential oils. These are very important for beehive air therapy. Now here a few information about the propolis concentration, the composition, and here again we find in propolis some substances which are volatiles, and Tiago from Canada will explain us in much more detail about all these substances which are volatile, which can go out from propolis. Okay, so I'll go faster here. And now here a very interesting paper, a very interesting finding from a team from Saudi Arabia. They found out that the beehive air, it is even antibacterial. We knew for hundreds of years, maybe not hundreds of years, but for at least 70 years, that propolis is antibacterial, honey is antibacterial, bee venom is antibacterial. But nobody made a study to show if beehive air is also antibacterial. And these people, they demonstrated this, and it's if you want, it's more or less logical, because it was another presentation, I believe, like 20-30 years ago. I don't remember the exact source, exact reference, but they said that if you measure the number of microbes inside the bee colony and outside, it is clear less bacteria in the beehive than outside. So they put in the beehive like a petri dish, like this one, with the nutrients for bacteria. And in the beehive, it came on the petri dish much less bacteria than outside of the apiary. Okay, some properties of the bee products. Propolis is very famous for its antioxidant effect. So propolis can block the oxidation, and the oxidation is responsible for many diseases. Oxidation has many aspects. One of them is free radicals, oxidative stress, and these are causing, as you can see here, many different diseases. And if we can block these free radicals, or better said, keep them under control, because in some situations, free radicals are useful in our body. For example, the white blood cells, they have inside their cells, inside their cytoplasm, a lot of free radicals, but they keep them under control with the antioxidants, with special substances. But they use these free radicals to destroy bacteria or viruses when they do the phagocytosis, when they eat these bacteria or viruses. But when the free radicals are too many, and they are not under control, they can cause all these diseases. So that is why propolis is one of the most used bee products in the treatment of these diseases. And mainly it's this effect against free radicals because of the polyphenols. Now, polyphenols are not volatiles normally, unless you heat them, like when you heat the propolis to about 70, 80, 90 degrees Celsius, the polyphenols slowly become also in the air. That is why it is good to use all forms of propolis, including from the beehive air and from nebulization and from other systems. Okay, now a big question is, many people are asking, can beehive air trigger an allergy? And the general answer is not, because the pollen allergy is already usually caused by Anemophilus pollen. Anemophilus pollen is that pollen which is flying in the air. It's a very light pollen. And this pollen is combined with nectar and saliva from the bees, so it's neutralized. more or less. But also, it's another important factor. You'll see in the presentations of Beate and our colleagues, the Beehive air therapy devices, they have a special pollen filter. So this possibly, potentially allergenic pollen, like from this plant, will not come in the air of the Beehive air therapy system. Okay, so you can see here we have a filter. So this is one of the most important conditions for a Beehive air therapy device. They must have a filter to block the pollen or maybe some other components which may come like dust, micro dust, which can come through the air from the Beehive. Okay. Another important thing here is you see in the Beehive, it's another interesting discovery made by bee biologists. The bees are putting a lot of propolis inside their colony. Some species, like from Caucasia, the queens from Caucasia, Apis mellifera caucasica, I believe it's the Latin name, they collect even more propolis, and they put it in their Beehive, and thus the propolis, the volatiles from propolis, will flow inside the air of the bee colony, and this maintains a certain antibacterial effect inside the colony. And it is interesting when beekeepers are making their beehives, some of them or most of them, they are using this kind of wood structure, which is flat, which is soft, but studies show that it is better to make this rough, scratching the surface of the wood, because the bees will put here much more propolis. So also this is an important factor for our Beehive air therapy. It is important to have this kind of scratching, as many as possible, and scratchings which are like 2 to 4 millimeter wide. If it's larger than 4 millimeter, the bees will not put so much propolis, will maybe add some beeswax on top. This is also good, but it's not so rich in volatiles like propolis. So make as many as possible scratches in the wood, and you'll kind of stimulate the bees to put more propolis in the colony. Okay. So here is some other things here, contraindications. We'll speak about the contraindications a bit later. Now here a bit of information about the story of the Beehive air therapy. So we know already in 1950s it appeared in the world, the so-called bee trucks with many bee colonies, like you see here. And what was noticed that the people which are sleeping inside the bee trucks, the beekeepers, they have a better respiration. If they have a bronchitis or something like this, they will breathe better later on. So also in Russia, it was found that already in 1920s, that sleeping in a room with a lot of beehives make the breathing easier. And then in the last maybe 15 years, a lot of systems like this one from Ukraine, from Russia arrive, like mini hotels, mini bee hotels, if you want. So people sleeping on top of the beehives. And this has advantages, but also disadvantages. We'll see later. You see another system here. So drawing like people sleeping on top of the beehives. And this has a major disadvantage. We'll explain later. Here is about Mr. Heinrich Hüttner, his family in Austria. They were the first who came with the idea to create a device to absorb the beehive air in a kind of controlled manner. So in 1987, they came with this idea, and they came with this idea after they listened to another Austrian guy, Yakimovic, Theodor Yakimovic. This Yakimovic was having a lot of hay fever, and he was healed by breathing the beehive air. So the family Hüttner, they make this system, and then they open a big center on beehive air therapy in Austria. And this is the schema of their system. They put a collector, the device which take out the air at the bottom of the colony. And then they started to offer this behavior therapy to various customers with very big success. And Mr. Hüttner came to us in Germany to our Apitherapy Congress in 2007, and he explained us about his system. We went to his place there with 2 buses, and we heard that he was already treating there more than 2,000 people. He has already treated with Beehive. So, of course, the main area of effects of Beehive is here on the lungs. And the most important disease which can be treated with Beehive is hay fever. So I'll go a bit quickly here, and of course, sinusitis, and then the lung diseases like bronchitis, asthma, and so on, tracheitis, and even we can prevent or even treat cases of COVID-19 or long COVID. And Beate and his father will present tomorrow about long COVID. Long COVID means those symptoms which are coming after COVID disease. Okay, here you can see about the history of Beehive. We can see Hans Musch. He was a beekeeper who listened to that guy from Austria, to Heinrich Hüttner in 2007. And a couple of years later, he made also a device. He improved the device by adding some special things to regulate the flow of the Beehive air. And he put his device on top, directly on top of the beehive. And this has, I'm telling already you here, it's a small disadvantage. The vibration of this collector, this electric part, electromechanic part, the vibrations goes directly into the bee colony through the walls of the beehive, and makes some noises, some vibrations which are disturbing the bees if you use the device longer than necessary. Okay, so, but let me give you some photos from Hans Musch. Of course, he was using the Beehive air for the customers, but also he was giving to the patients a lot of other bee products, honey, propolis, pollen, royal jelly, and so on. Here is an image inside his house, and you see here the customers. This guy, by the way, was a patient nurse suffering for asthma for many years. Okay, and then he has some presentations on what kind of diseases can we treat with Beehive air. This is just the first kind of selection of these diseases. It's a lot more disease which we can treat with Beehive air. Okay, see again Hans Musch and his device here. And again, the house inside, you see. Okay, and what is very interesting, Hans Musch have been to television, in Germany, to television channel. And he was having a huge success, and he brought a lot of people to this technique of behavior therapy. You see here his house, and he has his website. Okay, again his device. Okay, the device. Okay. Now here you can see a system where the beehive is inside the house, and outside is the garden. Okay, here is another system, a drawing. So you see the difference from the Heinrich Hüttner system, who used the collector of the air here at the bottom. Hans Musch put it on top of the colony. Okay. Okay, good. So some patients taking the beehive air. So I go pretty fast now. Just to see that it was a kind of explosion of people learning about the system. You see here another one with the beehive, which has a transparent glass here. So this is very good for didactical issues. Of course, this is not practical for the patients, because if a patient comes here in the beehive, there are thousands of bees around. The risk of getting a bee sting is very big. So the patient can get an anaphylactic shock. So this is just for didactical and only for beekeepers, like this system too. But it's just good to explain about how it works. Now here, this system with the beehive air inside the room, you see here with this tube, through this tube the bees are coming and going. This has a disadvantage first, that the tube is not transparent. So sometimes the bees may clog this tube, may die here for various reasons, and then they cannot go in and out. But there is another huge disadvantage of this system. When the beehive is inside the room, the beekeeper cannot work very well to check the colony. The bees will fly inside the room, and it is very difficult to get the bees outside this room. Of course, you need a special window, not like this one, fixed window, because you need to clean. You need to take out the bees because the bees may sting your customers. Okay, but we'll speak about this later. This system, as you see, the beehive is outside and the patient is inside. This is one of the best systems. You have here also the windows which you can open largely, but the beehive is outside, so the beekeeper can come outside. He can manage the bee colony and put some more frames with propolis and so on, and this will be better. Okay, so more images. Okay, and now here is a system from Germany, another system from Bikura. And this system came after we presented in Germany several conferences, several years. And here is one system from France, from one beekeeper named James Pollen. He listened to one of our lectures in France, and he said, okay, this system with collecting the beehive air directly from the colony, like the one mentioned, used by Heinrich Hübner and Hans Musch, is not very good because it causes vibrations. So why not to put the extractor of the air, the ventilator, outside of the colony? So you have a tube which connects to this device which absorbs the air, the ventilator, and another tube which goes to the patient. Thus, the vibrations are here outside. They are not disturbing the colony anymore. Okay, so and you see here another system on one idea from Romania to add on top of the colony special filters, if you want, which can be enriched with propolis or with bee pollen to enrich the air from the hive. Here is another system from Germany. It's the concept of sauna in the beehives. One guy from Germany was specialized in saunas, but also he was a beekeeper. So he created a system. At the beginning was this system, like a very complex electromechanic device here, which is heating. And then on top, you can put the bee colony, where you see here the frames. And this heat will heat the box. And then the air can be taken for the breathing. The system was improved in the last years, and maybe we'll speak about this later. Now in Romania, the beehive air therapy was developed technically by these two engineers, Adrian Martinescu and Ionel Togan. And also it was one of our colleagues who started to use beehive air, medical doctor Doina Cojocaru. And we presented in congresses about the system. Here it's Adrian Martinescu. He was the first one in the world to come with the idea to use a pyramid, like a pyramid here on top of the colony, to take the air in a very soft manner from all frames, not just a small collector of the air. And here is the engineer Togan Ionel, who came with the ideas to put on top of the colony special grids, which you can put there propolis and pollen to enrich the beehive air volatiles. Okay, so you see the system from Adrian Martinescu. Now, as I said, there are advantages and disadvantages in all systems. One of the disadvantages of this system is that it is difficult to get a pyramid for every single different type of beehive. We know there are many different beehives, so it's a bit difficult technically to make such pyramids to come perfectly on this kind of beehives. But here, this one of other advantages of the system is that inside this pyramid box, if you want, you can put a lot of propolis, like propolis spray or propolis tincture, or even let it open for some time for the bees to put here raw propolis or to add some frames if you really need that. Okay. And now here is one of the systems from Mr. Togan, Engineer Togan. So he combined the idea of beehive air devices in form of pyramid from Adrian Martinescu, and he put on top of this the collector of the air. So he made it in like copper here. So, and he made the form to adapt to this kind of beehive, square beehive. And here is Dr. Doina Cojocaru, who used both systems in her apiary to treat various patients. So it was the old system, if you want, which is not any more recommendable today. Okay, and one very interesting thing he discovered, we noticed, we knew from literature that in the beehive air, the carbon dioxide is higher in amount than outside the beehive. And this is plays a crucial role in the mechanism of action of beehive air because the carbon dioxide is increasing the vasodilation in the body. Because carbon dioxide cannot, when you inhale the beehive air, you inhale an air with more carbon dioxide. And you see here the measurements, concentration of carbon dioxide inside the air, the beehive air, it's larger than outside. And this makes bronchodilation. It helps the bronchodilation or bronchodilation, and thus it improves the breathing, together with all other substances from the beehive air. Here is some analysis from Dr. Cojocaru, from patients, and you see here various proofs. And here, so you see here the spirometry. It's one of the measurement which is done for the capacity of the lungs, and it's before and after. And this spirometry was improved after the treatment. Okay. Okay. And now the best system we know in the world now is the Bikura system. And this system, it's already in Germany approved by the German Health Department. And this system combined everything I showed you before. So it's like a pyramid here, but not like so large like the pyramid from our engineer in Romania, Adrian Martinescu. It's a smaller pyramid, but large enough to cover many frames, many areas of the beehive. And the collector of the air is not anymore on top directly of the beehive. So the vibration from this device does not come in contact directly with the bee box, the wooden part. And it's diminished, is decreased by this system here. And there are many other advantages, including this tube. It's a special tube, which is agreed by the health department, and a special mask. But about this, we'll tell you more, Beate and Jürgen, later on. Here you can see one of our students from Australia. She came to our place in Romania for apitherapy teachings. And you see about the use of this system. And here are a few more details, but we'll listen more later, okay? So here is one study which was done in Germany, in Dresden. They analyzed the quality of the air from the beehive. And the most important part I told you, they found over 50 different substances in the beehive air coming from propolis and beeswax. And this was later on research, and they are also now researching in more detail about this beehive air. But Tiago will tell you more about this composition. And yes, we have here Tiago, who already presented his findings in also in Apimondia Congress a few years ago, but we'll listen to him in more detail here on. Okay, so I'll stop. Yeah, here it's some other tables. I'll give you this PowerPoint later with the volatiles from the medicinal plants which are coming inside the beehive air too. Okay, so let me stop now.